to our guest today. Hi, Pam. Thank you for joining us as well. We're introducing Clem Hollis to you all. Clem, would you just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and this powerful conversation that we're having today and the necessity for it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Beth. I really appreciate the opportunity. As Beth said, I'm Clem Hollis, and I am the CEO and president of Liberty Management Investments. Here out of Atlanta, we also have an office in Houston, Texas, as well as Scottsdale, Arizona. We are a boutique private equity and debt firm, as we act as a mediated consultant firm for equity banks as well as debt. And we service our customers through our different financing products and services as far as small business lending and middle market lending.
Awesome, wonderful. And during this time, this has been a strange year. Would you agree?
I would totally agree. Yes, yes.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so one of the things that we're finding is that businesses are suffering. Of course, we all know the shutdown didn't help, but being able to make new connections, to network, to be able to receive additional revenue for their businesses has been suffering. And so there's an opportunity that you're going to share with us on some of your slides today. I've read through a couple of them. That what is the number one thing that you would start off with your top statement that you would make about businesses in lending? Do they know how to go about approaching a lender, or is there opportunities out there that they perhaps aren't aware of?
Right, great question. Actually, there's various opportunities out there for business to seek lending. Now, during the pandemic, things have changed somewhat. However, as a whole, the fundamentals of lending is still the same. And we'll talk briefly about what those fundamentals look like, because now that we're in this pandemic and we're looking to come out of the pandemic in 2021, we still have to be mindful that the fundamentals of business lending has not changed. Maybe scrutinized a little differently now, maybe looked at things a little bit more harsher now, but at the end of the day, the fundamentals have not changed and will not change going forward.
Wow, awesome. Okay. So when you go ahead.
Now, when we speak of fundamentals, and it's in one of the slides, we can kind of go ahead and jump into that now.
Okay.
Is that the most important piece here is what we call the 5 C's, C as in Charlie, of lending.
Okay, the 5 C's of lending. I can
Correct.
share my screen now to be able to have you speak to those. You had just mentioned the 5 C's.
Correct. That is
Uh,
correct.
can you see the screen? Is it showing up for you
I
guys?
sure can.
Okay.
And you want to go down to your third slide.
Okay.
I'm sorry, keep going. I apologize.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay.
Okay.
So we talked just briefly about the fundamentals of business lending, with the 5 C's being big components of making a determination if a bank is going to lend to you or not. One is the credit worthiness of the client, of the business, as well as the individual as guarantors of the business. We want to make sure that the client has credit and has established some form of credit over a period of time. With that said, some individuals think that they have to have perfect credit, and that's typically not the case. Of course, the higher the credit score, the better we're off as far as interest rates are concerned, as far as credibility going forward with your file. But again, it does not have to be at 800. It could be somewhere, I would say, anywhere between 680 plus, if you will.
Okay.
Okay. Then the second thing, and it's what we're talking about this morning, is the conditions of the market and economics. Where are we in the marketplace? What's going on from a banking aspect in the marketplace? What's going on economically? And as we know right now, during COVID, then there's a lot of movement, uncertainties in the market. So we also have to look at conditions of the market. So we're looking at your credit file, as well as we're going to look at the conditions of the market as well.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
And then next is the character. What's your character as an individual? Okay. Looking at your credit report, have you paid your bills on time or not? Have you taken a lot of risk over the years or not? So those are some of the things that we're going to look for is, as far as your character is concerned, is who are you as an individual and what does your credit history look like, as well as have you managed your credit over the years in order to get you to where you are today.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And then of course, number 4 is capacity. Do you have the capacity to take on debt or equity? Can you service the debt and can you perform as far as equity is concerned? So we have to look at those as well. Is do you have your business have the capacity to do so? Okay. And then lastly would be number 5 is capital. In some instances, it could be collateral. What do you have as an asset to perform this type of loan or business profile? What do you have? How much skin are you willing to put in the game to say, okay, I'm going to vouch for this loan because I have, assets, I have cash, or I have real estate, et cetera. Because again, in today's time, especially going forward, we're going to look to see if you have skin in the game, and if not, then why are you not willing to take the risk for your own business?
Wow. Wow. Okay. Awesome. And
Yeah.
one thing that you mentioned, I want to back up to number 3 for character. Sometimes I think people don't understand how important that is as a component to determine if you are credit worthy.
Right.
So to
That is
speak. Yeah.
correct. That is correct. Absolutely. Because again, what we see is on paper. We don't know you as an individual, but we see your story, we see your history on paper, or in terms of writing a book, we know exactly who you are based on the report that you've submitted to us for lending.
Wow. Awesome. Awesome. Definitely.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so we've got people still joining us right now. What I'd
Okay.
like to ask at this point too is there an opportunity that anyone that's listening has any questions about the 5 points that you made, and how difficulty right now, because during this season, Slim, people not having opportunities to generate revenue, things may be happening that credit worthiness may have
Right.
taken a hit.
Sure.
So the strength, is it necessarily in the order? I'm going to just stop sharing for just a second
Okay.
to talk to the audience. He listed all of those key points there. So my question is related to of the five opportunities, the 5 C's. Can one carry stronger weight if I'm in a position that I need to borrow money to keep my business operating, and maybe I've fallen short because of the crisis that we're now in the top one? Does others help to carry enough weight to be able to still put me in a position that I'm able to make that do lending?
Yeah, a great question, a great point, because typically what we do is we look at the full totality of your file, okay? So we're gonna look for the strength and we're gonna look for the weaknesses within your file, and we're trying to combine that to strengthen your file so we have an opportunity to lend. However, there are gonna be certain parameters that we're gonna have to meet from a standpoint of reducing our risk, or as you say, mitigating our risk, in order for us to perform as a lender, bank investor, in order for you to take on this debt and be able to service the debt itself. So, at the end of the day, is credit important? Yes, it is. Is character important? It sure is. Capital is also important, along with the conditions of the market, but we'll take it and look at it as a whole versus just singling out one particular strength or weakness.
Okay, awesome, wonderful. Wow.
And then
Okay.
typically, Beth, if I may,
Uh-huh.
again, it goes back to where are we seeking equity, where we're seeking debt? Is it going to be from traditional standpoint or non-traditional? If it's non-traditional, then that credit score does not have to be as high as it typically would be in traditional banking or lending.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, all right. So, one of the things I'm trying to gauge people that are entering the room, and
Okay.
I want to be real careful and see. There we go. Hold
There
hold
we
on
go.
one second.
Okay, take your time.
See
I love the graphics.
that is not me.
Uh-oh.
Hold on and hold on. Let me get to that one.
Oh, wow. That is,
Hold on.
okay, take
And
your
this is
time.
why we changed it. Okay, there we go. And honestly, I'm going to remove one other name here because I
Okay.
cannot see their name. And I'm sorry if I'm removing somebody that's supposed to be here. That because this happened and we put a password out there.
Yeah. It's been happening a lot lately. Don't feel singled out.
Okay,
We've had
okay,
some issues in the past as well, so
okay. Well, I apologize for that.
no
And
problem.
so, but for some reason, and I'll have to follow up with some of the people that assist us technically, and we put the password out there and see, I'm having to, oh man,
Yeah.
gosh, it's like we're just out there. Sorry.
No,
Okay.
no, listen, trust me, we've had the same problem.
Are you serious?
Yes,
Yeah.
we have. Yes, we
Okay.
have.
Okay. All right. So what I'd like to do is go back to your slides again and have you
Okay,
speak to those to continue to speak to those. Okay.
okay, yeah, not a problem.
Okay.
Take
Here
your
we
time.
go. We're up. Okay. So you talked about the 5 pillars of underwriting. Okay.
Correct. That's
And it's
correct.
important. So, okay, and then you spoke to traditional versus non-traditional lending. And
Correct.
I don't know that everyone has their understanding related to that. I could even use your to be more, dive a little bit deeper. When you talk about traditional lending versus non-traditional, what does that really look like?
Right, actually. So traditional lending is typically your lending institutions, such as your big box banks, if you will, your your Wells Fargo, your Fifth Third, SunTrust, so forth and so on. Those are your big box lenders. So they're lending in a simply structured process, if you will. So their requirements are going to be a little bit different than what we call non-traditional lending, because on the non-traditional lending side, we have more flexibility. We have a variety of options that we can use for the borrowers. So for an example, it's like the credit score requirement is not necessarily where it would be for a traditional bank versus a non-traditional. In some cases, with a non-traditional bank, depending on what the file looks like, we can lend at a credit score of 600, okay?
Mhm.
Most banks, if not all traditional banks, will not lend. The lending criteria is not going to be at that 600 level. It's going to be somewhere at 680 or higher,
Mhm.
okay?
Okay.
As far as interest rates and terms are concerned, non-traditional lending is probably going to have more flexibilities in the term aspect, as well as what the interest rates look like going forward when you're trying to service that debt. So again, there are some variations there. There's a difference there, but again, what we try to do is we try to take our clients to a traditional lending bank as well. And if we're not able to lend from a traditional standpoint, then we'll go back and fall back on what we call our non-traditional lending practices.
Okay, gotcha. Understood for definite. And then one of the opportunities here you were talking about, uh-oh, sorry guys, one second here. It's amazing. I don't know why we're so attractive today. I don't.
Well,
Oh
what?
goodness.
There
It's
are a
just
lot of people at
amazing.
home now.
Yeah, but I refuse to have us experience what we experienced last week. It was not pleasant, wasn't
Okay.
attractive. So I'm just
All right.
guarding and I'm probably deleting people but you need to put a name out there.
Yeah.
And this is for our Facebook listeners as well. If you decide to come over, put a name out there that sounds halfway like a reasonable name. I may not know everyone that's trying to come in, but if you actually put your name out there and some picture format or something, or your business logo or something, that would help us to get you in here if I do not know who you are. So I hope I haven't eliminated some of the people that were really sincerely trying to glean from this information, but we will also have it on Facebook for a follow-up as well, okay? I have a comment that I'd like to share with you.
Okay.
It's hard being a part of a not-for-profit organization looking for help to stay afloat. If we do not get grants, how do we get funds from a lending sector?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Now this leads into what we call non-traditional lending space, okay?
Mhm.
There are certain institutions out here that we have relationships with. And let me kind of step back quickly to talk about what those relationships look like.
Okay.
As a private equity and debt firm, the strength of our firm is that we have what we call family office or home office relationships. These are private institutions, private banks, or private individuals that want to invest their dollars by way of servicing debt or equity to clients. And what that means is that we have identified certain lenders that will lend in the nonprofit space.
Mhm.
Whether you're a startup or you're an existing nonprofit, we have those relationships that we can raise dollars for your nonprofit organization. So, and that's primarily going to be in that non-traditional space.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, wonderful. And the criteria, does it fall under, it probably possibly would not definitely fall up under the 5 Cs though, right? The,
Yeah, well, keep in mind those 5 Cs are the fundamentals because we have to, as we're underwriting your file, we want to know about these 5 Cs and how you fall in that category. We just don't want to have a blind eye to it because it's very important. You've got to know who you are, what you've done, and what you're trying to do going forward. So from a credit standpoint, we have to know what's going on within you or your organization as well. Because
Oh.
remember, at the end of the day, is that how are you going to be able to service the debt?
yes.
And that's going to be very important.
Okay, so the repay capabilities and
Yes.
all of that are considered that. I want to ask you a question, and if it's outside the scope some, but I think you'll be able to help us with it.
Okay.
You remember the traditional business plans were taken into great consideration in times past, pre-COVID, I guess,
Right.
and even possibly prior to that. So is that an essential document that needs to be revised at this time that positions you for sharing your vision? What am I going to do? Where am I going? What are the opportunities for my goals and objectives? And what am I basically, why do I need this funding, so to speak? Is that something that could be revised or revived probably in some regards, because all of that has changed to a
Yeah,
big degree.
and it has changed. But again, if we always fall back on the fundamentals and the basics of what we're doing here, if we're running a business or not, if we're seeking out funding from a personal standpoint or a business standpoint or not, we just can't. We have to rely back on what the basics are as far as lending is concerned. So now you may have to cut back on the amount that you're seeking. And that goes between a want and a need. But at the end of the day, those parameters are going to be what they are. They may be kind of fine-tuned a little bit based on where we are in the marketplace. But at the end of the day, we've got to know who you are, what your business model is, what's going on within the industry, and then where you're trying to take it from there.
Okay.
So our job is to always mitigate our risk. Okay.
Right, of
to
course.
take you on as a client.
Okay. And one of the things, we have a lot of pop-ups here and there. for businesses
Mhm.
here. Some people have taken advantage of where we are right now, and ideas are just sparking and they're saying, I'm in business.
Right.
And so when I looked at the 5 Cs, I'm sure under credit worthiness and character, what if I'm a new startup and that credit worthiness doesn't exist because I'm just starting up? And so you're looking at, when you said the score, the score of 600, you're looking at a personal score, and you're taking into that character how I paid personal debt? Is that what we're looking at?
Right. So let's just look at the aspect of being a startup. So if you're a startup business, then the only history that you have as an individual is going to be your personal history. Okay. Unless you've had prior businesses over the years. So you don't have the financials, or you don't have the balance sheets or your
Mhm.
performance that you can present as a new business. So we have to solely look at you as an individual, look at your business model, again, look what industry that you're in. So all those come into play when we're trying to make our decision on if we're going to lend to you or not.
Okay.
Okay. So again, if the credit score is not where we need it to be based on our lending parameters or requests, then again, we got to look at the full totality of your file, look at your business, and then at some point, find our partner that's willing to lend to a startup business under non-traditional parameters, if you will.
Wow. Okay. Someone said to me, and when I promoted this, and they came back, and I wanted to read this to you.
Okay.
According to an article in Gwinnett County, uh, Gwinnett County still has 27.1 million CARES Act funds available for small businesses that needs to be used by 12/30. Why
Mhm.
wasn't it used when so many small businesses are struggling? And is it possible that they just don't know it's available? Can you speak to that? And
Well, I want to be very careful here because, the CARES Act has a lot of variables within it itself. So I want to be very careful in how I speak about that.
Mhm.
From a market standpoint, or knowing exactly what the CARES Act requirements were, there are a lot of misunderstandings out there, if you will.
Ah,
I do know that we're at the end of the rope with the CARES Act, but when I was studying the CARES Act, my concern or concerns were based on securities, like your 401k, your RA. What does that mean to you as an individual or your business? So I just want to walk that with a very fine line before I speak about that, because I want to
okay.
make sure that people are getting the right information.
Okay, okay. And so you have identified lenders and sort of like, as you said, the mediator, the middle person to be able to connect. I wanted to say, is there anything that's too small that you don't want to deal with? Or, because I do have some opportunities that I can see some of the people that are here that may
Right.
not, is there, if you can give us like uh, benchmark of what is too small and you just don't have the time to deal with, because we're small businesses to
Right.
some regard.
Exactly.
But
That's
in a minute, okay,
you're
you
right.
got
That's exactly
Beyonce voice, in a minute, okay.
Yeah, and the question comes up a lot. Typically for us, within our organization, we typically look at the floor as being about 50,000, and
Mhm.
our ceiling can be as high as, I would say 500 million. And I know those numbers sound very big, but once you start getting into new development, new construction, those numbers start to grow pretty rapidly. So 500 million doesn't sound like a lot of money, if you will.
Mhm.
But 50,000 is typically the floor for us on the small business lending aspect. Now
Mhm.
we've gotten calls over the years where they were looking for 10,000 or 15,000, which is not a problem. And what we try to do versus denying them is kind of walking them through that process of understanding why they only need $10,000 or $15,000. Because in some cases you don't want to under budget your project or your ask, because you want to have at least enough money or capital that would kind of sustain you and see you through the initial process.
I see. And when we look at, when you look for collateral,
Mhm.
when you're out there, want to take risk,
Right.
but what kind of collateral are you talking about? Are you talking about this broken down vehicle I have sitting out there? But I mean, really, seriously,
Yeah. Yeah.
are what is good collateral for you? You know?
Yeah, yeah, very good question. Cash is king, always. Okay, real estate is always good collateral as far as long as you own the real estate,
Hmm.
then that comes up as a good piece of collateral as well. Any equity that you have in your business, any equity ownership that you have in business, we can also look at any securities that you want to attach to your collateral is also something that we'll look at. So anything that we can reduce our risk, and if
Hmm.
there's any default or losses, then of course we have collateral that we can kind of recover. If you
Wow. Okay,
will.
good. Very good. Because honestly, I asked that and I was because sometimes people think, and I was making a funny about,
Right,
a vehicle, but I really wanted to draw that out because I wanted to hear about it because sometimes, depending upon how you have your personal finances, you may have property,
right, that's
land
right,
that you're not used. Maybe you purchased as an investment to
right,
or as even an opportunity that you wanted to develop down the road and you haven't. And that really could be of great benefit to you if you're serious about growing your business as far as collateral and even for startups, you
right,
know,
that's right.
right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
and again, you want that collateral to have some kind of value to it.
Okay.
Okay, and I know you kind of talked about your car. Well, cars are a depreciating item, if you will. But if it's paid for, you still have value there. Okay,
Okay.
you have dollars there. But typically, we look at the project, the totality of the project. What type of collateral will it take to mitigate our risk? So there's a formula there that we use. Okay, so if we're trying to fund, several millions of dollars for your new construction or reconstruction project, then one or two cars, as far as collateral, is probably not going to be sufficient enough for us to offset the loss, if you
Right.
will. Okay,
Right.
so that's typically how we do it. Mhm.
I have a question because you were talking about the floor and then the ceiling
Mhm.
um, of 50,000. And one of the things that I think sometimes is we think too low, you
Mhm.
know, because we probably have what we think is a good idea and what we like to say at Georgia Christian Business Network that we look for God ideas. And if God is giving you that idea, then what I believe there may be an opportunity that we're actually labeled it too
Mhm.
low and we're coming in and we're trying to be of low risk and say, oh, I only need 10 or 20, but our sight's not. Because I know God says we're the lender and not the borrower, but there are opportunities, I believe, that we need to look at. I need assistance, and you go ahead and invest in your business to get it started, and you try to come in low at 10 or 20,000 when it's really you haven't made a good assessment. Do
Right.
you provide that coaching for people to be able to um, have an understanding of you need more than what you're asking for, and you probably can have access to more than what you're asking for. Uh,
Absolutely.
does this make
Absolutely.
sense what I'm trying to go for? Because I hear that sometimes.
Yes, it does. And it happens a lot in the space that we're in. So typically, this is where we get into your financials. So we look
Okay.
at your business model. We want to then also look at your financials to see what your projections are over a period of, let's just say, 3 to 5 years. Okay, because typically in that first year, you're kind of up and running, you're not profitable, cash flow is not good. But in that second and third year, now you're starting to see some profitability. Hopefully, now you're seeing some increase in your cash flow. So as you're doing your budget financially, what we do is when we come in as consultants, we will look at your overall performer and
Uh-huh.
see where you're starting and where you see yourself ending in the next 3 to 5 years, and then kind of tailoring that budget to what those projections are. So, again, if you feel that you need $1 million over the next 2 to 3 years, then we want to see in your projections and your financials that $1 million is going to be accounted somewhere and it's going to make sense as you grow. We just don't want to throw numbers out there because they look good or sound good. It has to make sense as you're building your business financials to make you, of course, successful, profitable in the near future.
Okay, because you're looking at and you're taking a calculated risk on this individual in your business. And in this particular instance, what I'm hearing from you is that you are your business, you know. And I think the opportunity is you're actually weeding out a hustler from a true business entrepreneur, so to speak, you know, because we walk around with a hustle mentality. And when you have that threshold that you're looking at is, I want to deal with what Flim is saying to us guys is, I'm looking for true determined business owners. And there's an opportunity that we have to see ourselves differently. And that's why I wanted you to come on to our platform, and I wanted to announce to our GCBN members and everybody that's on this screen right now with us, and maybe possibly some that are on Facebook. I'm not watching Facebook as much as I should today. I should, because I invited everybody to come to Zoom for a particular reason, is we want to be connected with Flim Hollis and his organization. And so I want to announce to you guys that they're going to be corporate sponsors of GCBN. And we want to filter an opportunity to send clients his way so that we can start being those kingdom businesses that God preordained for us to be. And I see it as an opportunity to provide this level of exposure to our business members, and to also provide for an opportunity for our business members to start to see ourselves higher as the head and not the tail, above only and never beneath, and not to get it twisted that, oh, I shouldn't borrow, I can just make it, and I'm self-funded, and you're going broke. There's opportunities. Even churches borrow when they want to, the edifice. You know, if they want to build a new building, more often than not, there's an opportunity, unless they have some benefactor out there or something, that they've borrowed. And so I want to erase the way of thinking that I shouldn't be in, and I'm in debt, and you know, and some CPAs tell you things like this, Flim, as well.
Sure,
are you tracking with what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. And again, all debt is not bad debt, okay? So you take on debt that you feel that you can service. You have to make sure that you can service the debt, but making sure that that debt is going to help you grow your business long-term or short-term, whatever your goals are. But again, all debt is not bad debt. And don't be afraid to step outside the box. And when I say step outside the box, in today's world, we have alternatives as far as lending is concerned, or seeking capital, if you will. You know, we deal with a lot of investors within our organization that are looking for opportunities, some one-off, some opportunities they're looking to grow with these businesses if the business model makes sense. Again, investors and banks kind of think alike. If the story makes sense and we can mitigate our risk, and then there's a gain down the road, then we want to hear about it, okay? We want to hear about it. So it's important that we kind of think outside the box of the normal, okay, I'll go to my traditional bank, I've got a great relationship there, and I advocate traditional banks. That's my background, that's my history, that's my pedigree. But again, you've got to be able to think outside that box if your bank says no.
Okay, awesome. And I'm finding that a lot of people had opportunities during the pandemic. And I know this has been a challenging year in so many regards, but it's not been all bad.
No, not at all. Because
opportunities are available.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, they are. They definitely are.
Okay.
I mean, if you go back and look at, they're projecting that the lending growth, as far as loans are concerned, will increase post COVID-19 at about 22%.
Wow.
Okay, so if you think about that, so if you think about when COVID started and then now where we are now, and then going forward post in 2021, if that trend continues to grow, which it will continue to grow, because what it's really done to us is it allowed us to be very mindful of what we're doing as a business, as individuals, okay? And to rely on others to help us reach our goal and share that same vision with them in order to get to where we're trying to go. Now, from a banking standpoint, investor standpoint, or a private sector, if you will, there may have been some reduction in manpower, probably at about 14% across the board. But again, the model hasn't changed. The fundamentals have not changed. The basics haven't changed. It's just now we have to kind of tweak what we're doing, and it has to make more sense going forward. So we're still lending. You know, I get calls all the time. My plate is full. But again, we have to really be mindful and measure our clients and our client success as we move forward.
Wow, awesome. This is great. I'm wondering, those that are on the call, do you have any opportunities? Feel free to unmute yourself, and any direct questions that you would like to ask of Liam. We have a few minutes left, about 5 to 9 minutes left. And I wanted to see if there's anything that you would like to ask him directly. And I do invite you to unmute to do so. As I listen to you, and is there anyone that wants to share at this point? Please do so. Okay, but if you decide to do so, please feel free to do so. But Angela had spoken to nonprofits. Is it very difficult for a nonprofit startup to be able to ascertain lending? How difficult is it? Because I can look around and I see at least one, as Henrietta, three opportunities, 4 opportunities for nonprofits. You know, there's Kima, yeah. So, and I also see opportunities where on this call, there's those that have dual, and myself included, nonprofit as well as a for-profit business. So help us to understand the opportunities as a nonprofit, because you really, and if I were to take myself in particular, I really want to grow my for-profit. And I'm not saying I don't want to grow my nonprofit. I do.
Correct.
It has a purpose, and there's a mission there. But sometimes the nonprofit works me, I put more attention or time in working that nonprofit than I've placed with working my for-profit. And so, and it's obvious too, okay? But the thing about it, in order to grow, I hear you, Henrietta, I see you. In order to grow and to get return on investment, I really need to invest in my for-profit, okay? But I haven't. And so when I think about the 5 C's, may I throw them back up there for those that are just now joining us? I'm gonna go back to our slide that I want to share, and where Liam spelled out, and he's already walked through the 5 C's for lending. And where was that? Right here. And when I'm looking at credit worthiness and some of these that what are you looking for from my for my profit? Can you take into consideration that I have this nonprofit, that I've been working, that does that fall in one of these opportunities, or is it totally unrelated? You don't even care that I've done all that. What you're looking at is this business that I'm trying to now focus, and I need some money to make it happen. Right,
yeah, and this comes up a lot, and has come up a lot over the years. Look at what we're saying. We're saying for profit business versus for nonprofit business. So if I'm a lender or an investor, then I have to be able to separate the two. You have to be able to separate the two, because at the end of the day, if I'm lending to your for-profit business, then I kind of understand my gain. I kind of understand how you're going to service the debt, okay, or bring on equity partners. From a nonprofit, then now that kind of changes the dynamics of your financials. That kind of changes the dynamics of the type of debt that you're trying to take on. So things kind of change, if you will. So these 5 C's are important, but again, there's other parameters and other requirements that we're going to look for in a nonprofit organization. I always advocate nonprofits looking at your local banks or your traditional lending facilities to see what type of nonprofit funds they have available within their organization, okay? Because they have that, okay? From a non-traditional standpoint, look at those investors of banks, private sector banks that have an interest in nonprofit organizations. The key is aligning yourself up with those individuals to seek funding, if you will, okay? Now, again, there are not a lot out there, but there are some out there that are willing to take the risk for startup nonprofit organizations, if that makes sense.
Yes,
Okay?
It does. Can I say something?
Yes.
Angela. Okay, so I'm 100, and I feel exactly what you're saying. When it's a nonprofit, you don't see an investment. You're figuring out how you're going to pay this back. That's why
Right.
you're looking at my personal credit score. You're looking at my personal character. You do not know my business. My business is looking for money. My thing is, I find that a lot of nonprofits, especially, well, I'll speak on me then.
Okay.
We do not know how to build a proper budget. Our budget is not realistic. We do need a large sum to get these projects done, but it's hard to get the money to do that. And
Right.
Most of the time when you're asking people for money, they are wanting to know who else is giving. They want to see where your connections are. And if you don't have them yet, it's hard.
Right.
It's really
right.
hard. You
Yeah.
need partnerships with people that already have their feet dirty and are out there.
Absolutely. I mean, you hit it right on the head. Absolutely. So in some cases, what you want to do is find those investors or investor that has an interest in your nonprofit organization, because they're out there. And within our organization, we have a pool of investors that does just that. Okay. Then there's other opportunities to bring in municipalities that may have an interest in your nonprofit. So again, you kind of have to drill it down, because again, you don't have the financials that you would typically have in a for-profit business. But we want to look at your organization. What's the cause of your organization? How are you moving forward in the future? So we got to kind of take those pieces and kind of align them where it's going to make sense outside of that normal traditional lending box, if you will, if that makes any sense. So it's out there, but I know it's a struggle and I know it's challenging, but it takes organizations like myself and experience that I've had both on traditional and non-traditional side to kind of understand what that looks like.
wow, awesome. Angela, thank you.
Great question. Great question, Angela.
Thank you for sharing. Henrietta?
I just wanted to chime in just a little bit. Let me hold on. Hey guys.
Hello,
All right. So
There.
when I look at nonprofit and trying to just to kind of go back off what Angela was saying, when I look at nonprofits and I'm looking like, okay, well, I haven't gotten any funding, I break down everybody that gives me $1, because what you don't have to do is most of the time they do not ask you for the dollar amount that was given. And even if it's a pledge, sometimes they'll ask for, if there are any potential grants or funders out there. But I look for everybody that's giving me $1, not literally, but and I list them. And if you can list 100 people that have given you $10 or $20, that's listing people who have sold into your organization or into your project or into your program. And then I also wanted to just kind of touch on the it being a nonprofit. We have to learn how to understand to make our nonprofit profitable, because at the end of the day, when you look at Salvation Army, when they first started, they were like us, okay? But they said, wait a minute, something has to make sense. I have to be able to disconnect from one thing and just merge it into just one big thing. I can't have 3, 4, 5 businesses. So what these other nonprofits did, they started looking into their for-profit businesses and connecting it to see how they can make it into one profitable business, which is their nonprofit. because they're not paying taxes to the government. So if I had to choose, I would definitely choose the one that I'm not paying taxes to and see how I can merge everything into that. So I just
That's
wanted to, sorry.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. It is. I mean, churches are nonprofit groups, so you just have to find the structure on how you're going to structure your nonprofit versus your profit business. And again, not marry the two because of regulations, but understand both at the same time and how you can kind of grow it from there. There are a lot of organizations and grants out there that are looking to fund nonprofit organizations. It just depends on how you're structured. So, at the end of the day, what I'm saying is this, is that allow yourself some time and understanding, and then go out and seek those opportunities, because again, we have those relationships and we've had them over the last 5 years, but again, fitting you into what that box looks like is something that we have to continue to do, and we're willing to do that.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so what would be your number one first step that you would take to sit down? If I wanted to come sit down with you, what would you expect from me? What would you recommend for those that are on the call and those that will listen to the replay? I have faith in my business. I believe I have opportunity. I just don't have the funding to take it to where I'm becoming more competitive in my particular market, but I need help. So what do? Do I just call Flem Hollis up? And how do I approach this? And what do you want me to bring to the table? Because you're looking at those 5 C's. What document would support that?
Right, great question. So the first thing that we always ask is that, how well do you know your business?
Yeah.
Okay, and how well do you know your capacity to operate or run your business? That's a story that you have to tell us, okay? Because put yourself on our side.
Okay.
I'm coming to you, I need a loan, or I need to bring on investors or equity investors. Then it's got to make sense to all parties involved. If it doesn't make sense, then now how do we take our building blocks to put it together where it's going to make sense to all parties involved? So now, as a lender, I'm mitigating my risk. I have a better understanding of your business model. In my mind, I'm saying, yes, I think it will work. And I've also have looked at your profile to say, this person has the ability to pay back the loan through their business model based on what they're projecting the financials would be down the road. But again, if you don't know your business, if you don't believe in your business, if you're not investing in your own business, then why should I?
Wow. Well said. Well said. Yeah, for definite. Okay. Flem, thank you. This is very good. And what I'd like to do is maybe circle back around in the first of the year. I know you're tying up a lot of things here at the end of the year, and the new administration, of course, the administration changes hands in January. And I know I would like to know maybe 1st of February, opportunities as a result of that change, how does it play out for us, even for Linden? And the reason I want to buy that amount of time for the next 6-8 weeks is for the GCBN members to rethink where you are, because now we have access to someone that is determined and has some skin in the game with us and want to invest in us. And in turn, we want to send him the business. It's like a win-win. And so what are some of the opportunities? Because I know, for instance, and not to pull people out, but Kima, there's some great opportunities. She does remodeling. She has a for-profit and nonprofit. She has a brick and mortar. And, I've talked with her when I'm for the hair appointments, because it's a hair salon, and I know COVID's hit that area hard, but there's rebounded. And what are opportunities to rethink that and to sit down with the lender to say, you know what, I've got this space, I got this opportunity, and I want to invest in it. And how can you help me with that? And so what I'd like to propose is that we bring you back on our February platform to maybe talk about where we are now and whatever's new out there, to keep us informed on it. And maybe even at some opportunity, if you feel like you'd like to write a blog for us, or to tell us things like that, we'd like to invite you to do that.
Right, yeah, and we would definitely like the opportunity to continue the relationship. I would like to say in closing is that, there are opportunities out there for all of us. We just have to understand those opportunities and know how to seek those opportunities out. Call us, we'll have a conversation. We can talk about it. We can talk about what it looks like. You don't necessarily have to do business with us, but let's just have a discussion. Let's just open the floor, have a discussion, and you may already have a prior relationship, and that's fine, but it's all about talking through the process and making sure that we all completely understand on how we're going to move forward in our business. Because again, it's our business that we're trying to move forward.
Awesome. And Henrietta, I recommend also, you spoke a second there, there's some great opportunities there that you might want to just reach out to FLIM, maybe sooner than some of the rest, maybe, I don't know. Simultaneously, people need to reach out, but I'm just thinking of some things that we've talked about with Tanae on calls, because Henrietta, I should have asked everyone to introduce who they are and what they do when they speak, but the opportunity I'm thinking of to grow as you switch to the YouTube channel, there's some great things that you have in the way of ideas, but you need the funding to be able to do that. And you have the credibility already established from a character standpoint, what you've done so in such an awesome way on the magnitude with your nonprofit. So there's some opportunities. Also, FLIM, in closing, I just have one question about grants. You mentioned that if you have access to that information, and I'm approaching you and saying, I really need a loan, but when you know better that there's grant dollars available, do you have access to that type of information? And then you share in turn, well, why don't we hold up? Maybe we do the loan, but here's a great opportunity for a grant for you.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right. So
Okay.
we do have those relationships as well.
Right,
But
okay.
grant writing is not something that's done overnight. It's a process.
It's a process.
So we have to understand the parameters around underwriting those grants as well.
Okay, and the question has come up in the chat to me, Beth, does he have a Facebook group, or do you have anything like that available? I know your website, you could share that as well.
Yeah, exactly. We are out on Facebook as well as LinkedIn. Our website address is www.liberty, initial MGT, which is Mary George Tom Investments, plural. So it's all one word, libertymgtinvestments.com. So feel free to go out on our website to kind of understand how we run our business, the involvements that we have out here in the lending space, and the individuals that work within our organization. We've got over 60 years of experience on our team. So we've got some fantastic folks that are part of the group, and we're out here trying to help out as much as we can. So
Wow.
One last thing, Beth, if I could, there's a subscription reference out there that you can go out and read about different mergers and acquisitions, different businesses or investors or equity investors that are lending in various spaces, and it's called PitchBook. That's PITCHBOOK, PitchBook, all one word, news. So I would advocate that we all go out and subscribe to that, because you can kind of hear about some things that are happening in the lending space and these different businesses that are merging and acquiring other businesses.
Wow, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And
Absolutely.
I want to let you guys know, I love what you said, the strength is those 60 years of combined experience. I met FLIM some years ago, and some of you may recall when he was associated with a traditional lender, and I won't call the name, I don't know, but he was on the senior leadership team there, and he provided information faithfully to us. And I reached out to him approximately a year ago, and we've been cultivating our relationship and now bringing it to the table to where, you know, we've reeled him in. We're small fry for him. And so we're just pleased and honored to have you. We do have our new website launch that is happening after December 15th. And you guys that are members are going to be pleasantly surprised, especially sponsors as well as members, because it's a new look. It's upgrading to the level of where we want to be recognized, and we want you to be recognized. And so Flynn will be out there as a sponsor, and you'll be able to assess him, have access to him at that time as well. Okay, this is wonderful. I really sincerely want to appreciate all of the participation today. I hope that I did not eliminate, that we had at least 10 opportunities that came in addition to those that are here, because I couldn't identify the names, and I was just trying to protect us from the scene that we had last week on our Wellness Wednesday. And because that's speaking to our integrity as well. But thank you guys for taking time out of the day. I know you're comfortable sometimes on Facebook Live, but I love the interaction that we have with our guest speaker on the platform. Good to see you, Tony, Pam, those that I did, Carla, sponsor, King, I already said, but thank you guys for joining us, and especially to, hey, Tony, Flynn there, Pam, yes, hello. Flynn, we have a wonderful network of GCBN members and sponsors, and we're thankful to welcome you, is what I'll say.
Thank you. We look forward to it.
And just undergirding us and supporting our efforts to put God back in business. Just a GCBN administrative piece right here. Join us tomorrow for Wellness Wednesday. We've got Pamela Bridgman Bartell and Rich Oswald, who are, Rich is an LPC, Pamela's an LCSW. Listen, these folks are giving free coaching and counseling on our Wellness Wednesday platform. That is outstanding. So that happens tomorrow at noon. We only having one more next week, Take Charge Tuesday with Janine Hammond, and then Pamela and Rich will be back that Wednesday. Then we're taking the remainder of the month off from the platform. Rich is going to be posted, and Christian and Lisa put stuff out there that's important to keep you inspired and encouraged to grow from during the holiday season. But we will be sending out a special announcement right before Christmas, launching the website, putting information in your hands that's valuable for next year. We have our Randy Ross. Dr. Randy Ross is going to be our keynote, and we're coming on site here at Cornerstone on January 23rd. Every participant will receive a copy of Dr. Ross's book. And so I really need your support there to come out. We're going to be respecting social distancing. And so that great opportunity is occurring on January 23rd. Go to our website, www.gcbnetwork.com. Check us out. We're bringing these dynamic speakers like Flynn to the platform. Going to be a few changes in January, but we right now just want to say, Flynn, we salute you. We thank God for you. We pray continued increase in your business and your life. And thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.